Hollywood always seems to latch onto anything that can make it money, which makes it shocking that it took over 40 years for an American Godzilla movie to be produced. After all, Japan had been seeing success with the series since 1956, so why'd it take so long? Well, if anything, we probably wish it had gestated a little bit longer, featuring a Godzilla that didn't even look familiar. If anything, he'd now become a large iguana, and who better to fight him?
Bueller?
Dr. Nico Topodopoulos? It's Topopoulos. Whatever.
Oh boy, let's do our best Roger and Ebert impression as we take a look at what happened to Godzilla 98. Despite not getting their first American-produced Godzilla movie until the late 90s, the country had been exposed to the monster for decades. In fact, many films released by Japan's Toho Studios were then given American releases, sometimes with alternate titles. The original Godzilla would be known as
Godzilla, King of the Monsters.
The 70s would introduce American youth to the Hanna-Barbera-produced Godzilla cartoon. But studios took their time deciding to make their own live-action Godzilla movie. Hollywood had their first chance in 1983. Toho gave director Steve Miner, fresh off of making 2 Friday the 13th sequels, permission to shop around his own Godzilla project. It was to be a 3D movie set in the San Francisco area during the Cold War. A screenplay was written by Fred Decker, with storyboards being drawn up. Special effects maestros Rick Baker and David Allen were going to handle the monsters, but no studios wanted to provide the $30 million budget.
I want a bajillion dollars.
A decade passed, then TriStar Pictures bought the rights from Toho in 1992 with the idea of making their own Godzilla trilogy. Toho was in the midst of producing a new era of Godzilla films at the time, but always being conscious of overexposure and not wanting to flood the market with too much Godzilla, put the King of the Monsters on hiatus in Japan, with TriStar's Godzilla looking likely to get a 1996 release. Toho made the Death of Godzilla film, Godzilla vs. Destroya, in 1995. After which, the intention was for Godzilla to go dormant at Toho until the character's 50th anniversary in 2004, a notion that feels totally alien these days. Speed director Jan de Bont was first hired to make TriStar's Godzilla, working from a screenplay by Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio, who had scripted the very underrated Little Monsters together.
You're drinking it? Maurice, it's disgusting.
That script had Godzilla doing battle with the Griffin, an alien creature that rides to Earth on a meteor. It creates a form for itself using DNA gathered by monstrous bats. It ends up having the body of a puma, the wings of a bat, and a tongue composed of snakes. Miner and Decker's Godzilla kept the basics of the kaiju intact, but completely altered his origin. Rather than an ancient creature awoken by a nuclear detonation, this version of Godzilla was the creation of an ancient civilization that spliced dinosaur DNA to create a monster that could fight off an alien force. What people, you ask? The Atlanteans. Long ago, Godzilla thwarted an invasion of DNA-collecting aliens like the Griffin. Then he was kept in stasis in a tank of amniotic fluid for millennia, waiting for the aliens to return. Now he has purpose again, and he fights the hybrid monster to the death in New York City. You can probably guess as to why this one didn't get made, but Stan Winston was actually hired to do the effects for the de Bont film. He designed the Griffin and planned to make Godzilla with a traditional look. Eventually, the cost became too great and eventually killed this version of the hulking monster. TriStar was unwilling to put up the $121 million budget that de Bont had required, so he left and made Twister instead. Director Roland Emmerich and collaborator Dean Devlin were about to have huge success with their film Independence Day, ironically a movie that would go head-to-head against de Bont's Twister that summer. They were known for delivering event films on reasonable budgets, so TriStar offered them the chance to develop their own take on Godzilla. At first, they were hesitant, but they asked production designer Patrick Tatopoulos to draw some concept art and come up with his own design of Godzilla. When they saw what Tatopoulos had envisioned for the monster, they agreed to make the film. Elliott and Rossio received story-by credits on the finished film, but Emmerich and Devlin had completely started over from scratch, and there are no elements of the original screenplay. They assured the studio that they would be able to make the movie for less than $100 million. But then Independence Day was a hit, so TriStar increased the budget that they had to work with. Officially, the final film cost $130 million, more than the price that got the DeBont version shut down. Ironically, there were even some reports claiming that it was actually closer to $150 million. Emmerich and Devlin also reworked Godzilla's origins, but not as drastically as Elliott and Rossio did. They changed the character's roots from dinosaur to iguana. An iguana mutated by the radioactivity of nuclear tests conducted by France in French Polynesia. So let's just call him Iguanzilla. Just like in the original 1954 film, Iguanzilla's presence is first revealed through its destruction of a Japanese fishing boat. The sole survivor claims the boat was destroyed by the mythological sea creature Gojira.
What did you see, old man?
Gojira. Gojira.
The creature continues making its way across the globe, approaching the east coast of the United States. After years of attacking Tokyo, the king of all monsters would have his sights set on the Big Apple. They cast Matthew Broderick as the lead, Nick Tatopoulos of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, a character named in honor of the creature designer.
Dr. Nico Topopoulos. It's the Topoulos.
He's one of the experts brought in by the military to try to figure out what's going on, and is the first to deduce that the creature they're tracking is a mutated aberration, the result of radioactivity. This consulting gig takes him to the rain-soaked city of New York, home of his college girlfriend Audrey Timmons, who ran out on him years ago. Maria Patillo was cast as Audrey, who had been working as an assistant to a creep news reporter played by Harry Shearer, who is best known for his voice work on The Simpsons.
This is certainly no laughing matter.
Audrey hopes to become an on-air personality, aided by cameraman Animal, played by Hank Azaria, also best known for his work on The Simpsons.
Please, Chief Wiggum. I'm Professor Frank, of course. Comic book guy. Cletus the slack jawed yokel.
She attempts to make the Godzilla situation her big break, which causes some fresh drama between her and Nick. Jean Reno lurks around as a man named Philippe Roche, who is eventually revealed to be a French Secret Service agent.
French Secret Service.
He and his team have a major role in the climactic final sequence, aiming to clean up the mess caused by their country's nuclear tests.
Thank you for your help, my friend.
Also in the ensemble are Kevin Dunn as Military Colonel Hicks, Arabella Field as Audrey's friend and Animal's wife Lucy, Vicki Lewis as paleontologist Elsie Chapman, Michael Lerner as the mayor of New York City, Ebert, paired with Laurie Goldman as his aide Gene. These characters were Emmerich and Devlin's way of thumbing their nose at movie critics Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel for giving their films negative reviews over the years. Nancy Cartwright, the voice of Bart Simpson, even shows up for a cameo. Holy hell, there's a lot of Simpsons present here.
Ay, caramba!
There are a lot of characters, but they don't slow down the monster action much. Godzilla makes landfall in New York just 25 minutes into the film, and impressively, Emmerich actually holds off on showing a full shot of him. There are only quick glimpses of body parts, and he is clearly massive. This version of Godzilla, brought to the screen through animatronics and CGI, is about 200 feet tall and over 300 feet long, making him taller than the original Godzilla, but smaller than the Godzilla of the 80s and 90s Toho films. 45 minutes in, we get our first look at the Patrick Tatopoulos design. It strayed too far from classic Godzilla for many, but Toho signed off on the changes, feeling the spirit of Godzilla was retained. The look is very different, but there are recognizable elements in there. And when the military pisses the monster off, it demonstrates its fiery breath. Godzilla has always had the ability to blast things with his radioactive breath, but Emmerich and Devlin wanted a change. They wanted logic applied to the fire breathing, with the gases inside reacting to a flame and causing the fiery spectacle versus simply a limitless supply of destruction and chaos. When watching Godzilla 98, it becomes very clear that the filmmakers were inspired by one film in particular, Steven Spielberg's Jurassic Park. In that film, it's revealed that the dinosaurs can actually reproduce asexually due to the frog DNA that was used to create them.
We use the complete DNA of a frog to fill in the holes and complete the code.
It also features a fantastic stalking sequence between the velociraptors and the young children. So what was the solution here? Well, let's slap that asexual reproduction onto our big Iguanzilla and make his sole purpose for coming to NYC to nest.
How can he be pregnant? Doesn't he need a mate?
Not if he reproduces asexually.
Where's the fun in that?
That's right. He sees this little island where he's being chased by helicopters, torpedoed by submarines, attacked by missiles, and goes, perfect place to raise my little Iguanzillas. Speaking of which, we've got a bunch of baby Godzillas and they behave exactly like velociraptors. I get it, they're really freaking cool, but did we really need them here? We already have a massive version of them. The tiny ones just feel unnecessary. At least they're able to be ahead of their time, with a fun tease for a Godzilla sequel that would never come to fruition. Emmerich and Devlin took the concept of Godzilla and delivered a fun, dopey creature feature, with a lighthearted tone and plenty of destructive entertainment. The problem is, the monster just isn't Godzilla. The new design was kept hidden in the marketing, partly because the effects weren't ready to be shown in trailers, so only parts of Godzilla were shown. There was a scene specifically shot for a teaser that shows Godzilla's foot smashing a T-Rex skeleton in a museum, letting viewers know that he's much bigger than something we'd see in Jurassic Park. The tagline was, "Size does matter."
It's Godzilla!
But when viewers saw that this wasn't a Godzilla that they recognized, they were disappointed. The monster earned the nickname Geno, which stands for Godzilla in name only.
It looks like Godzilla, but due to international copyright laws, it's not. Still, we should run like it is Godzilla! Though it isn't.
Before we continue with our video, here's a reminder to click the Store tab on any of our JoBlo channels and browse our collection of the latest and freshest designs in our merch store. Go get you some.
Though despite it being a mouthful, I'm clearly a fan of the name Iguanzilla. Despite all of this, Godzilla 98 was still a box office success, earning $379 million worldwide. TriStar was ready to go ahead with a sequel, with Tab Murphy writing a treatment that would follow the last surviving Godzilla offspring, being raised by a family in the Australian outback. That is, until its peace is interrupted by a military task force and monstrous insects that were also the result of the French nuclear tests, leading to a battle between Godzilla and the insect queen. But it didn't get made. TriStar knew Godzilla's reception had not been very enthusiastic, so they set aside their plans to make a trilogy, and Toho quickly resumed their franchise, starting up a new series of Godzilla movies in 1999. While we never received a live-action sequel, there was an animated series follow-up that ran for 2 seasons. It followed Nick Tatopoulos, the Godzilla offspring, and several other characters from the film on adventures around the world. And honestly, it was a pretty good show, with even people who disliked the 98 movie giving it praise.
I had this skunk from the eggs all over me. The creature must have picked up on that scent and imprinted on me, like a baby with a parent.
And in 2004, for their 50th anniversary film, Godzilla Final Wars, Toho brought the American Godzilla back in live action. He's given the name Zilla, and he appears just long enough to be destroyed by the original Godzilla, which is just about the most fitting ending you could have to this story. R.I.P. Iguanzilla, we hardly knew ye.
Thank you for clicking on our video, everybody. If you like what you saw here, please make sure you like the video and subscribe and share with your friends who like this sort of content. JoBlo was created by movie fans for movie fans, and we appreciate your support.